I'm Robin, I'm a certified financial planner, and I'm talking about recessions. So, when I'm speaking to my clients and meeting with my clients right now, we talk about the possibility of recession. The last major recession in the US economy was during 2008, 2009, and most of my clients were alive during that time, but many of my clients are younger, so they were children and they didn't have the full experience of participating in an economy in recession. I'm going to give you the same information I'm giving my clients and how to deal with recession. So first things first is you need savings. Many advisors recommend 3 to 6 months living expenses and savings. I personally recommend 6 to 8 months of savings. Reason why I go a little bit longer is because during really rough periods in the economy, like recession, it's going to take you longer to find a job in your industry and you'll have to make ends meet longer. Now, hopefully you will be eligible for unemployment or other benefits, but unemployment benefits are often minimal and are not even enough to cover the basic expenses like rent, food, clothing, etc. So you're going to need to build up a bigger savings. Now, how exactly do you do that? I live in San Francisco, and 6 to 8 months living expenses and savings can stretch into the tens of thousands of dollars for most people. Well, I want you to remember it's not 6 to 8 paychecks or 6 to 8 months of living expenses. So if your living expenses are not that high, or there are things that you can immediately cut back on, it may be less money than you think. Also, during periods of long-term unemployment, you're not going to be contributing to your 401k or your company retirement account. So you can actually pull that back out of your budget and leave that off the table in calculating out your 6 to 8 months living expenses. Here are a few ways that you can get to that goal. First, you have to get to $1,000. If you have nothing right now in savings, work over the next few weeks and months to get at least $1,000 in a savings account. Now, I do recommend for long-term savings, you don't keep it in the same bank account that you keep your working capital, meaning your checking account in. Some of my clients even have their savings in a different bank, a high yield savings account, an American Express, a Barclays, just basically to add a layer between the money that they use on a daily basis and their long-term savings. So it could take them 24 hours to access the money and give them a time to stop and think. And so let's start with $1,000 and let's work as quickly as possible to get to the $1,000 mark. Next, if you have $1,000 in savings, and if you are contributing to your 401k plan at work and you are contributing past the point of match, I would say to stop contributing past the point of match while you are building your savings. And once you have your savings, you can go back to contributing more than the match to your 401k. I don't recommend this lightly. I like to see people when they are younger contributing to their 401k, but it's also a major red flag when a person really doesn't have adequate savings, especially going into an economic situation like we're currently experiencing or could be experiencing in the near term future. So if your company is willing to give you 4%, do up to 4%, and everything in excess in that goes into your savings. The next thing that I would say, if you have a company that has a 26 payment annual pay period cycle, many companies have switched to 24, meaning 2 paychecks per month, but there's still a few companies that have 26 pay periods in total in the year. So there's 2 months out of every year where you will get 3 paychecks that month. I always suggest taking that third paycheck, that extra paycheck that comes, and directing it towards savings. That's a quicker way to build up your savings to the 3 to 6 to 8 month threshold. But take that extra paycheck and immediately put it into your savings account. Another thing that you can use to turbocharge your savings is bonuses. Some professions are lucky enough to receive bonuses, cash bonuses, that can be immediately put away into savings. If you receive annual cash bonuses, if you receive annual performance bonuses, if your team receives annual bonuses, that really needs to go into a savings account if you have anything less than 6 months of savings. Now, in all fairness, it can take years to get to 6 to 8 months of living expenses and savings. I don't expect you to do this overnight, but seeing that we're going into time potentially of economic challenge, it's really a goal worth putting a lot of effort into. You don't want to go into a period of recession or possibly a period of economic contraction without having adequate savings. So those are some hints to get you started towards 6 to 8 months living expenses and savings. The next thing that I would tell my clients, or I'm telling my clients now, is to pay down high interest debt. Think credit card debt. We're not talking mortgage, we're not talking cars for right now, but think credit card debt. Anything that is north of 10% is definitely high interest debt that needs to be put to rest. And you can use either the snowball method, or you can figure out what method works best for you, paying the highest interest first. But the debt needs to be paid off and retired, because you don't want to go into possible economic recession or a difficult period economically tagging along high interest debt with you. Essentially what I would do, because this is rather common that a person has both debt and doesn't have savings. Sometimes I tell people, look, if you get a bonus, or you get that 26 pay period cycle and you have an extra paycheck, or you get a windfall of money, divide it in half goes towards debt, half goes towards savings. But I'm really saying, if you don't have savings right now, savings is the most important priority. So if you do have a windfall, let's say you do have that extra paycheck, 3/4 really needs to go towards savings. Maybe 1/4 needs to go towards paying debt. If you have to do a side hustle, or you have to work a weekend out of every month, or you have to do a little bit extra on the side to pay off that debt, you really do need to put that debt down, because you don't want to go into the next phase of the economy with high interest debt. Cutting silent subscriptions. So we all have them, things that we sign up for at the beginning of the year, or we sign up for at some point during the year, that we use maybe once, twice, or 3 times and then never look at again. Oftentimes they're silent subscriptions because they bill to our credit card monthly, or they bill to our credit card annually, and we're not really paying attention to them, but they are draining our pockets. Typically what I advise people to do is once a year, and this is the week between Christmas and New Year's, where work is not too intense and there's not very much going on. I have clients basically go through all their credit card statements and all their documents and find out the silent subscription that are draining their pockets, and cancel them out before the end of the year. It may be worth it to take a few hours and cancel out some of these silent subscriptions that you are not using. And the rule typically is, if you have not used this subscription in the past 3 months, you're probably not using it, and it probably can go away. Now, what do you do with that money that you are getting from canceling out these silent subscriptions? Once again, that can turbocharge your savings, and it can also be used to pay off debt. Like I said, 3/4 of the money will go towards savings, 1/4 of the money would go towards paying off the debt. But kill those silent subscriptions. Diversifying your income. So most of us have a 9 to 5 job, and during recessions in some industries, some jobs can become very precarious. If you give a single person the power to feed you, you also give that single person the power to starve you. So for most people, if they lose that one job, they basically have no other sources of income. So the time to build and diversify your sources of income are actually during times of economic stability and economic prosperity. You can build it at your own pace and go at your own rate in terms of building that additional source of income. Additional source of incomes can be anything from real estate to working 2 weekends a month to joining the gig economy and doing Uber Eats, to creating social media YouTube channel and monetizing, creating a product, doing an art project that sells. It can be anything, but it typically does take some time and energy to build up. Things like real estate, that's more long term, because that takes a significant amount of capital and time to get involved in the real estate market. So maybe that's not realistic for you, but perhaps working a weekend or 2 weekends a month to bring in extra income, or looking into that hobby, how can you monetize it, and working towards monetizing that hobby, or creating that social media presence that you've always dreamed of, could be a way of diversifying your income away from the 9 to 5 job and give you some additional income in case you do lose your job in a recession. Now, you also want to know that in terms of unemployment benefits, additional income will count against unemployment benefits. I have had clients in situations of unemployment that have found that their side gigs and their side projects actually worked against them in unemployment benefits. But for the most part, building a significant side income can really help you during difficult economic times. It's not an overnight thing. It typically takes months or even years to build up a significant side income so that if you did lose your job, you could rely on that second source of income to be able to cover all of your expenses. But you want to get that project started now, because at some point during your life and your career, adversity will come. And if you have that second source of income to rely on, you'll be able to navigate that experience much better. This is an important one. I'm talking to my clients a lot about this. We never panic sell investments during down markets. Down markets are not the time to sell. If anything, potentially they're the time to buy. High stable markets are the time to sell. And I have many clients who I have conversations with during high stable points in the market, and we talk about their anticipated needs over the next year, and we carve out cash and tuck it away, put it in a money market account during those good times so that they can reap the benefits of their stock portfolio and sell their assets at top dollar versus waiting for the market to decline and then having a conversation about what they need to sell. So never panic sell. I've never seen a panic sell turn out to be a good thing. The person often regretted the sell. Oftentimes the best days in the market are adjacent to the worst days in the market. So when you panic sell on a terrible day, if you had just waited a week, you could have recouped at least some of the assets. Sell only during good times in the market and tuck away that cash. So review and update all important documents, and also keep that network active. Important documents are things like your resume, cover letter. Now, resumes and cover letter, I know that they typically are custom, and most jobs honestly are found through your network. Most jobs are not found online. And so right now, what I am doing and what I am advising clients to do is network within their field, meaning you need to be going to industry events, you need to be connecting with colleagues, maybe former colleagues, former managers. In case worse comes to worse, your network can really help you find your next job. That is super critical. And I understand that sometimes if we're in a job a year or 2 or 5, we get very complacent and we kind of focus on work and not focus on networking and building out those important connections in our industry. But it is often that network and those important connections in our industry that will pull us through during difficult economic times, and they often help us find our next job. So there you have it, what I'm saying as a financial advisor to people about recession. If you found this information useful, please like, share, and subscribe.